on the 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month. A day once called Armistice Day, a day we've celebrated since 1918, Veterans Day.
I actually, from high school, went to the United States Naval Academy, graduated there after 4 years. And the Naval Academy, you can go into any of the service branches, but I chose the Marine Corps, the predominance of people go into the Navy. From the Naval Academy, I went to flight school, where I flew helicopters and joined the Fleet Marine Force in the 80s, back in the old Reagan days. Never officially saw combat. Spent a lot of time in helicopters fighting the air. I lost a lot of friends. The aviation community is a pretty serious community, and mistakes can cost you. And so I've lost at least a dozen friends at this point through war and through just aviation accidents. It's a dangerous sport. If you want to serve your country, you don't necessarily have to do it in the military. There's a lot of sacrifice with the military. You spend a lot of time away from home. Most of a 5-year period, I was probably home 2.5 years of that. Gone 3 months here, 6 months there, 2 weeks here. So it takes its toll on families. That's a hard time. Let's see, how old was I? Well, I said I went in right after high school, and a lot of people do. So I went to college, got an NROTC scholarship, and went in that way. A lot of people join up and then go to college later through the, what's the now, I guess the old GI Bill. So there's a lot of opportunity if you want to do something different, go to a school that you might not be able to afford, serve your country in a lot of different capacities. 4 branches, there's just so much that you can do if you're interested in doing it. But here's the thing, you don't have to join the military to serve your country. People who are doing their jobs and doing it well, trying to serve other people, trying to make America a little bit better place to live, that's service to your country. I was fortunate enough to do it with a uniform on, but you can serve your country just about any way you choose to, as long as you're doing something for others instead of yourself. Things I'll never forget. People. The people in the military are very different. Most of them are there with a sense of adventure, a little bit of spirit, and they're a group of fun individuals to be around. A lot of energy, a lot of fun. You're doing things with people who care about their country, who tend to be a little more physical, a little more adventure-oriented, and so there are some interesting events that happen. There are some cool places that you see. You get to meet all kinds of different people. It's an interesting way to serve. It's dangerous, and it's not without its risks, but life is not without its risks. Anytime you serve other people, anytime you put yourself out there, you risk something. Like I said, I've had a lot of friends who are no longer here. I think about them a lot on Veterans Day. Sometimes it's a little depressing, but the idea is you try to think if it was me, if I didn't come back from a flight, how would I want my friends to be? And that's how I try to live my life. Kind of they didn't get to do a lot of things that I've got to do, so I think I appreciate things a little more. That's always a good way to approach life. Don't waste it. Day-to-day life could be boring at times. I mean, a lot of what you do in the military is just, day-to-day stuff. Working with your troops underneath you, accomplishing missions, doing paperwork. A lot of it is just boring day-to-day stuff. They say, 8 hours of boredom with 10 minutes of terror is the way most military service goes. Just realize what you're doing is serious. If you want to serve your country, you have to be serious about it. But at the same time, you're doing something that's worthwhile. But again, you don't have to do just the military service to do something worthwhile. Serving your country is serving your country in any capacity, whether it's with a uniform or not with a uniform.
Captain Kevin Boyle. I joined the Navy in 1991. I received an NROTC scholarship out of the University of Illinois. I got commissioned as a surface warfare officer, ship driver. I ended up joining the Navy because of a lack of direction coming out of high school. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. Most of my family had served. I picked the Navy because the thing they kind of sold me on was the opportunity to travel. I like the idea of seeing places I'd never been before. I knew I wasn't going to go to Italy or Germany or Australia or Bali or Hong Kong or China unless somebody took me there, and I convinced the Navy to do that. I served 25 years. Not every day was fun. There were some long days. When I first joined and I was a young officer, I averaged about 4.5 hours to 5 hours sleep a night when we were deployed. We were just that busy. I mean, not every day was fun, but there weren't very many boring days. People ask me, would I do it again? In a heartbeat. What do I miss? I miss feeling relevant. Everything you did was important. You never felt like you were doing something that didn't really matter. I miss my shipmates. I mean, there were guys on the ship who I didn't like, and there were guys on the ship who didn't like me, and that was okay. But at the end of the day, if anything was happening, it was amazingly rewarding to feel like I knew they would be there for me. I can't recommend it enough. I would go back tomorrow if they let me, but apparently there's a time limit to service. I got told a long time ago by a naval officer that at some point the Navy is going to drop you for a younger man. It's just going to happen, so you better have a plan afterwards. I'm glad I have the opportunity to come to Carolina Force and share some of the things I learned, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Well, I never really thought I would end up working in high school, because when I was mandated by law to attend high school, I didn't really enjoy it, and I had a lot of trouble and a lot of discipline problems, and it's actually quite miraculous that I made it through at all. And I have to, attribute graduating from high school to me joining the military on my 17th birthday. It was an interesting situation. I was a junior in high school. I joined on a cold, wintry day in December, and my recruiter came out to my house and drove me through a blizzard to get to the Harrisburg MEPS station to give me my physical and swear me in, but he was determined to get me there on my birthday. So we drove through the night before, and stayed in a hotel. And I remember his boss yelling at him on my telephone before we left my house, like, "Don't crash the car." He was adamant, but even his boss was interested in me doing this. It was like a big deal for me to sign up. And I came from a family of pacifists. My father was a hippie, my stepmother is a Quaker, and as kids, my brothers and sisters, we couldn't even play with toy guns made out of our fingers. We weren't allowed to play with water pistols, and my parents always told me as a kid, you can never join the military. And by the time I got to that age where I was eligible, everybody was saying, yes, you have to join the military. Just go somewhere where they can fix you, because we're at a loss. No one knows what to do with you, Jason. And I kind of believed him. I thought, I'll never graduate high school. I'm not going to go to college. So when the colleges came to my high school and they would set up at lunch for students to visit and interview, I would just kind of take laps and walk around and look and see what kids are doing. Never really thought I would, even have anybody to talk to. But I started talking to the recruiters, and that's how I met this guy. And all the recruiters before the Army National Guard recruiter said, "We can't take you until you graduate." And Paul Sell said, "I could take you on your 17th birthday, as long as you're going to graduate." And that kind of stuck with me, because it seemed like they were going to take a chance on me and let me into this big thing that I thought was cool and I couldn't really totally understand. But I did it, and I asked my parents for permission, and they agreed, as long as I took a non-combat job. Even though that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, work in a combat role. My parents said, you can be anything else. So I decided to be a combat medic, and I got assigned to a unit, a forward support battalion, that was about 45 minutes from my house. And I couldn't drive there on my own. I didn't have a license, and I didn't have a car, and part of the reason why they put me in that unit was because there were a couple of cops that would do their weekend service in this unit, and they drove past my house, So they would pick me up and take me up to drill on those weekends in my junior year. And then I went to basic training in the summer between my junior and senior year of high school. And I came back and went back to high school as a senior. And I continued to go to drill with these two cops. And their names are Jerry Fayette and Tim Troxel, and they were instrumental in guiding me through that last year of high school. Like they were like the anchor. They were the guys that I talked to, and if I had a problem, which I had lots of problems, I would call them and they would talk me through it. And I got through this fortunate to be surrounded by really good adults at that time. I needed that kind of guidance, and I wasn't receptive to it from school people or from my parents. And got to do a lot of cool stuff in the Army National Guard, and I basically realized quickly that we weren't ever going to be used in a combat role. We would never be deployed, the type of unit that I was in. And so I started volunteering for any opportunity that I could get. And I did a lot of active duty work in the National Guard and took a lot of volunteer type positions because I was excited. I liked it, and I did well there. And everybody that I met in the Army would ask me where I was going to college, and I always told them that I didn't plan on it. And I was often met with this reaction like, why wouldn't you do that? The Army's going to pay for it. You get a lot of money for education. You should use it. And I just decided one day to try it, and I went to community college, and I did pretty well because I think it was because I wanted to be there. I had something to work for, and I felt like I had accomplished something in my life. So that's my experience with the military, is that I learned a lot about myself. I met a lot of cool people, and I did a lot of cool things that you just can't do anywhere else. And I grew a lot as a person, and it guided me into academics. And I continued federal service after the military. I volunteered for a year with AmeriCorps, doing work that was similar in a lot of ways to the work that I did in the Army. And it actually ended up guiding me to teaching, which is where I am now. And that's kind of strange, I think. I think a lot of people get this idea that the military is this amazing adventure, and I guess for some people it is, but for most people in the Army, in the Marines, in the Navy, in the Air Force, it's just a regular job in a lot of ways for them. There is a lot to get out of it, but there are a lot of risks as well, and I think you should spend some time really, thinking of the big picture before you, decide to do something like that. But there is no need to thank me for my service at all. I got a lot out of it myself, and I'm happy for that and grateful for it. So I want to thank the Army for taking me. I want to thank Horry County Schools for hiring me after the things that I've done. It's like, hey, we're just still to give this guy a chance to do something, and that's what I think is the best part of being in the Army. Is like all the people that you meet, all the things you get to do, and the experiences that you have. And if you're positive and open to new stuff and learning new things and growth, it is amazing. There is really no other organization in the world like that. But if you're negative and hostile and, I guess bitter about your station in life, it could be a miserable experience, and there are a lot of people who hate military service for that reason. They're just lazy, but if you're willing to do the work, you can get a lot out of anything you do in life. So if you think you can be open to opportunity and seize the day, you should do it.
The 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month, Veterans Day.